I basically wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to go out there and just continue and to indulge in the darkness that had overtaken me. So it became a very big battle um, between my mother and I, between God and the evilness that was inside of me. But I'll tell you one thing, that my mother's prayers started to eventually affect me. I started to want to know God, even though I had that evil inside of me. I started to want to know who was grasping onto my mother, what was causing her to change, and what was causing her to want to turn a new leaf and turn away from all the power that came with witchcraft. So you know what? Church service, it became to be less annoying to me, um, not as boring to me, because I had that deep down desire, deep down inside of me, to want to know what was going on, to want to know that God that my mother was praying to, and to want to know why my mother wanted me to be delivered from the evilness that was inside of me. She wanted Christ to be my savior. So you know what? I did go to church services. I did hang out with some of the people there, some of the youth there. But you know what? Satan still had that grasp on me. And that sparked that little bit of a flame of fire, that little bit of desire to want to know God. Shortly went out, and I went back into my old ways. Um, I went back into wanting to know about power, and to want to know about um, um, gifts of evilness, whatever you want to call it. That was my desire. That was my want. That was what I associated um, and wanted my life to be. That was my reality. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit beyond this to after my teenage years, after high school, um, prior to going to college. Okay, my mother eventually got a divorce from my stepfather because he was a dog. He was a low down, dirty dog. He was into the Freemasonry. He wasn't trying to hear about the God that my mom was involved with, the God that my mom had a relationship with. So that relationship dissipated between my stepfather and my mother. And my mother, she moved back to Wisconsin. We were living in California, but she moved back to Wisconsin. And you know what? Um, Shortly I followed, and I moved back to Wisconsin with my mother. Well, at first, I'm sorry, I went to Georgia, for a while, and then I moved to Wisconsin with my mother. And you know what? And then, my mother was still praying. She was still going to church, and I went to church with my mother. I did listen to the service and whatnot, and I wasn't so hearted at that time because I was a little bit more mature, whatever. But I still wasn't really trying to get a grasp onto the gospel until one thing happened to me. Like I said, I was into witchcraft. I was into teachings of the occult and whatnot. And one day I had an experience that really opened up a door to want to have increased knowledge, increased power about on the demonic side, whatever. And then shortly after that event, I was brought to Christ. But I'm gonna go ahead and tell you about that event. One day when I was sleeping, I woke up and I was completely paralyzed. But the only thing I could do is I could see with my eyes what's going on around the room, but I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't speak or anything like that. So I woke up in shock. Because can you imagine just laying down in the bed and you can't yell, you can't scream, you can't move. You are totally paralyzed, and the only thing you can do is see. So I'm looking around the room, and all of a sudden I notice that I see these shadows moving all around the room. Shadow people, or if you want to call them that. Shadow people moving all across the room. And these shadow people came up right in front of my face, and they started speaking an unknown tongue, like a demonic sounding language, whatever, speaking to me. I couldn't understand what this demonic force was saying to me. And after that, this force jumped on top of me, and I felt like I was being smothered, and I was going through sheer panic. I did not know what to do. The only thing I wanted to do was just come out of this state of trance or whatever state I was in. I just wanted to move so I could run, scream, yell, do whatever, because I felt hopeless, helpless, whatever. So, this, the demonic force was on top of me, pressing me down, and I felt like I was going to die. So I screamed out to Jesus. Jesus saved me. And all of a sudden I snapped up out of it. Everything, went back to normal. I was able to move. I was able to speak. But I was just so confused, like, what was going on? Like, why did this happen? Like, what exactly was that was on top of me? So at this time, being a young individual, I went onto the internet and I wanted to look up and see if anybody else had these experiences. And I saw that other people did have these experiences. And, Satan started to, draw me to sources on the internet that I wasn't supposed to go into. I wasn't supposed to venture into. But, instead of me concentrating on the bigger picture, me calling out to Jesus and Jesus taking me away from that situation and allowing me to not be paralyzed and I can move whatever and function normally and thanking God for that, I decided, I wanted to figure out what this demonic force was. I wanted to know what was going on. So I found out that my condition that I had was called sleep paralysis. But then I found out that sleep paralysis can lead into what they call astral projection or out-of-body experiences. So I was very interested in out-of-body experiences because I heard about it before. People say that, your spirit can come out of your body, you can walk around, you can explore, you can go to the moon. I thought this was so interesting. Oh, astral projection, out-of-body experiences. I wanted to know more about this, and I became excited because I had the sleep paralysis, and I knew that through sleep paralysis I can have this experience. So I bought a book on astral projection, and I read this book, and I became all about astral projection. I wanted to know how to do it. I wanted to experience it because it was like a new venture for me, something new that was in my life. So, after a while of practicing, the art of astral projection, I eventually did astral project out of my body. And that experience to me was just so exhilarating at that time because now I knew that there was this real spiritual world out there. I knew that everything that was going on with me since I was a little child was not fake, but there was a real source of power. I knew that witchcraft was real. I knew that this was real to me, that my reality that I saw in the physical realm that I associated with just being just born, whatever, that there was something beyond that. And that's what I like. That's what I love. So I would astral project. I would go, first it just began with me floating around the room. Then I would, walk outside in my spiritual form. I would fly. I would do all these crazy things in my astral projection form. And I just thought it was fun. Until one day, I decided I wanted to astral project. And just before I came out of my body, I see these black shadow people, dark beings, evil spirits, whatever you want to call it, walking all around my apartment room, my mom's apartment, just walking all around. And at this time, I wasn't really too scared of the beings. I just kind of looked and observed. I didn't come completely out of my body. I just looked and observed, and I saw these, spirit beings just walking all around the room, And then one of these spirit beings walked up to me, became very close to me, very, very close to me, and then went inside of me. And at this point, I'm in shock, like, oh, what just happened right now? And then another one of those black figures went inside of me. Then another one went inside of me, and then some came out of me, some went inside of me, and I just couldn't believe this. Like, what are these things going inside of me? What is happening? What's going on? So I decided in my mind that I didn't want to astral project anymore. I wanted to snap out of that situation. So I snapped out of it, and I noticed when I snapped out of it, I had this deep down rage inside of me, that just rage, anger inside me. I didn't know why I was so angry or why I was so enraged, but I was just enraged. So I knew that, from that experience and that rage that came down to me, that unexplained rage, I said, there's something wrong, like something wrong with this, whatever. I didn't know if I should stop or what. But then, I decided I'm going to go ahead and give it a rest. But then the astral projection just started to happen on its own. Sleep paralysis happened on its own. Out-of-body experiences happened on its own. Unwillingly, I'll just wake up and I'll be floating on top of the ceiling somewhere. And I'll wake up and I'll just be in a different type of room. I'll be somewhere different, whatever. And it just started to happen beyond my control. So, you know what? I decided that, if I really want to stop this, I need to figure out who I can talk to or research, whatever. I needed to figure out what was going on, how to stop it. So I went online, I did my research, and I found a Christian website about people who dabbled in that code and astral projection and everything like that. And I found out that these spiritual beings that were coming inside of me were indeed evil spirits or demons, whatever you want to call them. So, you know what, I decided, I need to get back to church, whatever. I need to go to church and be with my mom, go to church, whatever. So I started going to church with my mom, and then, you know what, and trying to praise God, but I never really fully committed my life to God. I just wanted this stuff to stop, the evil stuff to stop, whatever my life I wanted to stop, whatever. But I didn't want to commit myself to God. Didn't want to really commit myself to Christ. But then, one day I went to church, and all of a sudden, I got into this astral projection state, a state right before astral projection, right before coming out of your body, and I saw these demons walking all around the church, evil spirits walking all around the church, and I'm thinking, like, what the heck is going on? This is supposed to be holy ground. This is supposed to be church. Why am I seeing these demons inside this church? Shortly after I had that experience, I found out that this church indeed was under demonic influence. It was corrupt, whatever. So you know what? After a while, I started reading my Bible. I started picking up my Bible, wanting to know more about God, about Christ, and everything like that. I wanted to know, well, if this evil side is real, if this evil side is true. I wanted to know, what about the good side? Is there a God? Is there a Christ? And the more I read, the more I fell in love with the Gospels. The more I heard about Jesus' teachings, the more I fell in love. The more I fell in love, the further I was drawn away from darkness. And to the point where I say, you know what, Christ, I want to give you my life. I want you to come in, I want you to fill me, and I want my life to be all about you. And once I made that conscious decision, everything stopped for a while. I'm not going to say stop completely. Everything stopped for a while. I did have some scary experiences that I would talk about a little bit later on. One experience in particular where I was dragged down to hell, but I would tell you about that story a little later on. But the point of this is that Christ saved me. He began to speak to me, to tell me things through the Holy Spirit. And it wasn't inside a church that I got saved. It was inside of my own bedroom reading the Gospels. That the Gospels started to cut deep down in my heart. And I just started to fall in love, because I took the initiative to go out and want to find out about the God that my mom worshiped, the Christ that my mom worshiped, and I fell in love. Now, I did backslide a little bit later on in life, whatever, and I was brought back into life by my wife. But the point is, I fell in love with Christ at that moment. And I said, Christ become real to me, and Christ became real to me. And it's been a battle as a Christian, I've been through the spiritual warfare, the in and out, going back to my first love or whatnot. But the point is that now I'm redeemed, I'm sealed, I'm on fire for Christ. And I want you to hear my story so that you know that you too can be saved and that Jesus is real. And Jesus is real, but there's also the dark side that is just as real too. Satan is real. And I have a lot more experiences that I want to tell you about that. I try to keep this testimony short, just for time's sake, but a lot more experiences that I will tell you about. I want to get into the Word in the next video. We're going to study the Bible together. I want to open up debate. I want all atheists, whatever, Buddhists, Mormons, whatever you are, I want you to come to this page. I want you to watch my channels, watch my videos, and I want you to explore what I've explored